What if I told you that a penny most people would ignore could be hiding a story worth far more than 1 cent? A coin so common that millions of Americans carried it in their pockets, dropped it into vending machines, and tossed it into jars without a second thought. Yet today, certain examples of that very coin have become prized collector treasures, selling for hundreds, thousands, and in exceptional cases, even more. The coin we're talking about is the 1962 D. Lincoln penny. At first glance, it looks ordinary, small, brown, and familiar. But beneath that simple appearance lies a fascinating story of American history, massive coin production, rare collector discoveries, and the never-ending treasure hunt that keeps coin enthusiasts searching through old change to this day. And before this story is over, you'll understand why some collectors carefully inspect every 1962 D penny they find. The year was 1962. America was in the middle of a remarkable period of growth and change. The nation was entering the space age. Television was becoming a centerpiece of family life. New cars rolled off assembly lines. The Cold War dominated headlines, and Americans were looking toward the future with optimism and determination. At the same time, the United States Mint was working harder than ever to keep up with the country's growing need for coins. One of the most important coins being produced was the Lincoln cent. Introduced in 1909 to honor the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth, the Lincoln penny had already become one of the most recognizable coins in American history. By 1962, the design had been in circulation for more than 50 years. On the front of the coin appeared the familiar portrait of Abraham Lincoln. His calm expression had become a symbol of honesty, leadership, and national unity. Above his head was the word liberty. To one side appeared the date, 1962, and on coins struck at the Denver Mint, a small letter D appeared beneath the date. That tiny mint mark is what makes the 1962 D penny different from pennies struck in Philadelphia. The reverse featured 2 wheat ears framing the words 1 cent and United States of America. This classic wheat cent design had ended in 1958, so by 1962 the reverse showed the Lincoln Memorial, a design introduced just a few years earlier in 1959. Many Americans barely noticed the change, but collectors certainly did. The 1962 D. Lincoln cent was struck at the Denver Mint in Colorado, one of the busiest coin-producing facilities in the country. Hundreds of millions of these pennies were produced. Because so many were made, most people assume they are worthless today. And that's exactly where the story becomes interesting. In coin collecting, rarity is not always about how many coins were produced. Sometimes it's about survival. Sometimes it's about condition. And sometimes it's about mistakes. Let's start with condition. Imagine 2 identical 1962 D pennies leaving the Denver Mint on the same day. One enters circulation immediately. It gets passed from person to person. It rattles around in cash registers, purses, pockets, and piggy banks. Over time, the coin becomes scratched, worn, and discolored. The second coin is placed into a collection and carefully preserved. Decades later, those 2 pennies may look completely different. The worn coin might still be worth only a few cents. But the perfectly preserved coin could be worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars to collectors seeking top-quality examples. This is why grading matters so much. Collectors use professional grading services to evaluate a coin's condition. The highest quality coins are extremely difficult to find because even tiny marks can lower a grade. For the 1962 D. Lincoln cent, exceptional mint state examples are surprisingly scarce. Most people simply spent them. Very few remained untouched for decades. As a result, collectors compete intensely for the finest known examples. Now let's talk about another factor that can dramatically increase value. Mint errors. Coin errors occur when something goes wrong during the manufacturing process. Sometimes the mistake is small. Other times it's dramatic. Collectors love errors because they transform ordinary coins into unique pieces of minting history. Some 1962 D pennies have been found with off-center strikes. Others show die cracks, die chips, or unusual striking characteristics. A few display doubled features that attract significant attention from specialists. Not every unusual-looking penny is valuable. but genuine mint errors can command impressive premiums. This is one reason experienced collectors inspect every coin carefully before deciding its value. A tiny detail could make a huge difference. Now here's something many people don't realize. The metal composition of the 1962 D penny is different from modern cents. Today's Lincoln cents are primarily made from zinc with a thin copper coating. The 1962 D penny, however, was struck from an alloy that was mostly copper. It contains approximately 95% copper. That gives the coin a different feel, appearance, and historical character. Many collectors appreciate these older copper cents because they represent an era before major changes in coin composition. Holding one can feel like holding a small piece of mid-century America. Over the years, several high-grade 1962 D Lincoln cents have attracted strong attention in the collector market. While ordinary circulated examples generally remain inexpensive, coins with exceptional grades have sold for substantial amounts. When a coin receives one of the highest certified grades available, collectors often compete fiercely to own it. Auction records have demonstrated that seemingly common coins can achieve remarkable prices when quality reaches elite levels. This surprises many newcomers to the hobby. How can a penny worth 1 cent become worth hundreds or thousands of dollars? The answer is simple. Collectors are not just buying the coin. They are buying rarity, preservation, history, and prestige. The finest examples become trophies, and trophy coins often bring trophy prices. So how can you tell whether a 1962 D penny might be valuable? The first step is checking the date and mint mark. Look for the year 1962 and the small d beneath the date. Next, examine the coin's condition. Are Lincoln's details sharp? Does the coin still display original mint luster? Are there scratches, stains, or wear? The better the condition, the greater the potential value. Then inspect the coin for unusual characteristics. Look for doubling in letters or numbers. Check whether the design appears off-center. Search for raised lines, cracks, or other signs of mint errors. A magnifying glass can be extremely helpful. If a coin appears unusually well preserved or shows a possible error, professional evaluation may be worthwhile. But what about counterfeits? Fortunately, fake 1962 D pennies are not nearly as common as counterfeit versions of rarer coins. Still, collectors should remain cautious. A genuine coin should have the correct weight, appearance, and details. The mint mark should look natural and properly positioned. Added mint marks are sometimes used to deceive collectors. Professional authentication services can provide certainty when significant value is involved. Now for some fascinating facts. The Lincoln cent was the first regularly circulating United States coin to feature a real historical person. Before Lincoln appeared on the penny in 1909, American coins generally displayed symbolic figures rather than actual individuals. Another interesting detail is that if you look carefully at the reverse of Lincoln memorial cents, you can actually see a tiny representation of Lincoln seated inside the memorial. It's one of the smallest portraits ever included on a circulating American coin. Most people never notice it, yet once you see it, you'll never forget it. Here's another surprising fact. Millions of people search through rolls of pennies every year hoping to find overlooked treasures. Some discover valuable varieties. Others uncover rare errors. And occasionally, someone finds a high-grade coin that has somehow escaped decades of wear. That possibility keeps the hunt alive. For collectors, the excitement isn't only about money. It's about discovery. Every coin has a journey. Every scratch tells a story. Every surviving mint state coin represents decades of careful preservation. The 1962 D Lincoln penny captures all of that. It may not be the rarest coin in America. It may not be made of gold or silver. Yet it continues to fascinate collectors because it proves an important lesson. Value can hide in unexpected places. An ordinary object can become extraordinary when history, condition, rarity, and collector demand come together. That's why coin enthusiasts continue searching through old jars, inherited collections, estate sales, and bankrolls. They know that treasures don't always announce themselves. Sometimes they look exactly like every other penny. And that's what makes the hunt so exciting. The next time you receive change, take a closer look before spending that penny. You might spot a 1962 D Lincoln cent. Most will be ordinary. Some will be interesting. And a few may hold surprises that only a careful collector can recognize. After all, history has a funny way of hiding in plain sight. And somewhere out there, another remarkable 1962 D penny may still be waiting to be discovered. What if I told you that a simple Lincoln penny worth just 1 cent could actually be worth hundreds, thousands, or even tens of thousands of dollars today? Most people would never think twice about a penny sitting in a jar, a piggy bank, or forgotten in a drawer. But one particular coin has captured the attention of collectors across America for decades. It's the 1964 D Lincoln penny, a coin that millions of people have handled, yet very few truly understand. And hidden among ordinary examples are rare varieties and exceptional specimens that have sold for astonishing amounts of money. The story begins in 1964, a year filled with change in America. The country was experiencing rapid growth, the space race was underway, and everyday Americans relied heavily on cash for daily purchases. Pennies passed through countless hands every single day. To meet growing demand, the United States Mint worked around the clock producing coins in massive quantities. One of the facilities responsible for this enormous task was the Denver Mint. Coins struck there carried a small D Mint mark beneath the date, identifying their place of origin. Among the billions of coins produced that year was the 1964 D Lincoln penny. At first glance, this coin looks ordinary. It features the familiar portrait of President Abraham Lincoln on the front, a design that had been used since 1909. Lincoln faces to the right, while the words "In God We Trust" appear above his head. The word "Liberty" is located to the left, and the date 1964 with the small D Mint mark appears on the right side. The reverse side displays 2 wheat stalks framing the words 1 cent and United States of America. Above them appears the Latin phrase "E pluribus unum," meaning "out of many one." This wheat penny design is among the most beloved coin designs in American history. It symbolizes simplicity, hard work, and the nation's agricultural heritage. Even decades after it disappeared from circulation, collectors continue searching for examples to add to their collections. The 1964 D penny was struck primarily from an alloy made of 95% copper and 5% zinc and tin. Because of its high copper content, the coin has a distinctive reddish appearance when preserved in excellent condition. Now, here's where things start to get interesting. Many people assume that old automatically means valuable. In reality, age alone rarely determines a coin's worth. The 1964 D penny is not rare simply because it was made in 1964. In fact, hundreds of millions were produced. So why do collectors pay serious money for certain examples? The answer lies in condition, rarity within rarity, and minting mistakes. Most 1964 D pennies entered circulation immediately. They bought candy, newspapers, soda, and countless everyday items. As years passed, they accumulated scratches, dents, discoloration, and wear. Today, heavily circulated examples are generally worth only a small premium above face value. But coins that escaped circulation and remained in pristine condition tell a very different story. Collectors use grading systems to evaluate preservation. A coin with full original luster, sharp details, and minimal marks can be worth dramatically more than a worn example. In the highest grades, prices begin to rise quickly because so few coins survive in near-perfect condition. Imagine 2 identical pennies made on the same day in the same mint. One spends decades bouncing around cash registers and pockets. The other is carefully stored immediately after leaving the mint. 60 years later, the difference in value can be hundreds or even thousands of dollars. And then there are the famous errors. Mint errors occur when something goes wrong during production. Sometimes the coin is struck improperly. Sometimes the dies become damaged. Sometimes letters or numbers appear doubled. These mistakes create unique varieties that collectors eagerly pursue. Among the most desirable discoveries are double die varieties. On these coins, portions of the design appear doubled because of a misalignment during die creation. The doubling can sometimes be seen in the date, lettering, or other design elements. Another collectible variety involves die cracks. As dies wear out, tiny cracks can form and transfer raised lines onto the finished coin. While not every die crack is valuable, unusual examples often attract collector interest. Off-center strikes are another fascinating category. During production, if a coin blank is not properly positioned, part of the design may be missing. The resulting coin looks unusual and immediately catches attention. Depending on the severity and visibility of the error, values can increase significantly. Collectors also search for repunched mint marks, where the demint mark appears to have been punched more than once, creating a doubled appearance. These varieties can command premiums when properly authenticated. Now let's talk about real money. Many circulated 1964 D pennies sell for only a few cents to a few dollars. But high-grade examples tell a completely different story. Exceptional red examples, especially those certified by major grading services, have sold for hundreds and sometimes thousands of dollars. The key factor is preservation. Collectors pay substantial premiums for coins that retain their original mint red color. Why does color matter so much? Copper naturally changes over time. Exposure to air causes oxidation, turning bright red surfaces into brown tones. While brown coins are still collectible, original red examples are far scarcer after several decades. A coin that appears almost exactly as it did when it left the mint can generate intense competition among collectors. When multiple collectors want the finest known examples, auction prices can climb surprisingly high. In some cases, top-grade certified 1964 D Lincoln pennies have reached values that would shock anyone who thinks pennies are worthless. Imagine finding a coin in an old collection that was once worth 1 cent but now sells for hundreds or thousands of dollars simply because it remained untouched for decades. Stories like that fuel the excitement of coin collecting. Of course, whenever money is involved, counterfeit coins become a concern. Fortunately, there are several ways to identify a genuine 1964 D Lincoln penny. First, examine the date and mint mark carefully. The D should appear properly positioned and match known genuine examples. Altered coins sometimes have fake mint marks added to increase value. Next, check the weight. Authentic copper pennies from this period should weigh approximately 3.11 grams. Significant differences may indicate damage, alteration, or a counterfeit. Look closely at the lettering and design details. Genuine coins display consistent quality and sharpness. Poorly made counterfeits often reveal irregular surfaces, unusual fonts, or incorrect spacing. A magnet can also provide clues. Standard 1964 D copper pennies should not be attracted to a magnet. If one sticks strongly, further investigation may be necessary. For valuable coins, professional authentication remains the safest approach. Expert grading companies examine coins under magnification and certify authenticity. This provides confidence for both buyers and sellers. Now for some fascinating facts that many people don't know. The Lincoln cent was the first regularly circulating U.S. coin to feature a real historical person. Before 1909, American coinage generally displayed symbolic figures rather than actual individuals. The design honored the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth. More than a century later, Lincoln still appears on the penny, making it one of the longest-running coin designs in American history. Another surprising fact is that the metal value of older copper pennies has often exceeded 1 cent. Their copper content alone has made them attractive to people who recognize the intrinsic value hidden inside everyday change. Many collectors also enjoy searching bank rolls for older copper cents. Even today, dedicated hobbyists sort through thousands of pennies hoping to find overlooked treasures, rare varieties, or high-grade examples. Some collectors describe the experience as modern treasure hunting. Unlike expensive hobbies that require large investments, coin collecting can begin with pocket change. Every handful of coins contains the possibility of discovery. That sense of possibility keeps people searching year after year. The 1964 D Lincoln penny occupies a special place in this world because it combines history, accessibility, and potential value. Almost everyone has seen one, Yet few realize the stories these small copper coins carry. They witnessed a transformative period in American history. They circulated through decades of economic change. They survived in collections, jars, albums, and forgotten boxes. And today, they continue attracting attention from new generations of collectors. What makes the coin especially appealing is that valuable examples can still appear unexpectedly. While finding a top-grade specimen isn't easy, discoveries happen often enough to keep collectors motivated. Perhaps an old family collection contains one. Maybe a forgotten coin album has been sitting untouched for years. Or perhaps a remarkable example is hiding among ordinary pennies waiting to be noticed. That's the magic of coin collecting. A coin worth 1 cent can become a doorway into history, a lesson in craftsmanship, and occasionally a surprising financial reward. The next time you come across a 1964 D Lincoln penny, don't dismiss it as spare change. Take a closer look. Check the color. Examine the details. Look for unusual features. You may be holding a piece of American history with a story far more valuable than its face value suggests. And who knows? The penny sitting quietly in a drawer today could be the very coin that sparks your next great discovery. Because in the world of rare coins, treasures often hide in the places people least expect. I want to show you a penny that millions of people have handled without giving it a second thought. A coin so common that it spent decades rattling around in pockets, piggy banks, and cash registers. Yet today, certain examples of this ordinary-looking coin can attract serious attention from collectors. The coin is the 1967 Lincoln penny, and hidden behind its simple appearance is a fascinating story involving a national coin shortage, a major government decision, and a collecting mystery that still sparks excitement today. At first glance, the 1967 Lincoln penny looks like just another cent. It features the familiar portrait of Abraham Lincoln on the front and the Lincoln Memorial on the back. Nothing about it seems unusual. But when you understand why this coin was made and what was happening in America during the 1960s, you begin to see why collectors continue searching through old penny jars hoping to find a special example. To understand the story, we need to travel back to the mid-1960s. The United States was facing a serious coin shortage. Businesses across the country struggled to get enough coins for daily transactions. People were pulling coins out of circulation and saving them. Some believed certain coins would become valuable in the future. Others simply enjoyed collecting them. The shortage became so severe that the federal government stepped in. Officials believed one reason people were hoarding coins was because collectors paid special attention to mint marks. A mint mark identifies where a coin was produced. Coins from different mints often had different mintages, making some versions more desirable than others. In an effort to reduce collecting pressure and encourage coins to circulate again, the government made a remarkable decision. From 1965 through 1967, mint marks were removed from nearly all circulating U.S. coins. That meant pennies produced during those years carried no mint mark at all, regardless of where they were actually struck. This brings us to the 1967 Lincoln penny. Every regular 1967 penny was issued without a mint mark. Many people today hear the phrase "no mint mark" and assume it must be rare. In most cases, that's not true for this coin. The absence of a mint mark is exactly how it was supposed to be made. Still, that doesn't make the coin uninteresting. Far from it. The 1967 Lincoln penny represents a unique period in American coinage history. It was struck during a time when the government was experimenting with ways to solve a national economic problem. Every 1967 penny serves as a small piece of that story. The design itself remained largely unchanged from earlier Lincoln cents. On the front, Abraham Lincoln faces right. This portrait was originally introduced in 1909 to honor the 100th anniversary of Lincoln's birth. It became the first regular circulating U.S. coin to feature a real historical person. The words "In God We Trust" appear above Lincoln's portrait. The word "Liberty" is positioned to the left, while the date 1967 appears to the right. On the reverse side, the Lincoln Memorial occupies the center of the coin. If you look carefully with magnification, you can even see a tiny representation of Lincoln sitting inside the memorial. It's one of the smallest detailed images ever included on a U.S. circulating coin. The coin was made primarily from copper. Specifically, it contained 95% copper and 5% zinc and tin. This composition gives the coin its familiar reddish appearance when freshly struck. A standard 1967 Lincoln penny weighs approximately 3.11 grams and measures about 19 millimeters in diameter. Now here's where things become interesting. Although ordinary 1967 pennies are common, collectors know that condition is everything. A penny that circulated heavily for decades may only be worth a few cents. But a coin preserved in exceptional condition can command dramatically higher prices. Think about it. Billions of pennies were used every day. They passed through countless hands. They were dropped, scratched, and worn down over time. Finding a 1967 penny that somehow escaped all that damage is much harder than finding an average example. Collectors especially prize coins that retain their original mint luster. These coins appear bright, fresh, and nearly untouched. In the collecting world, they are often graded according to their condition, with higher grades receiving significantly higher values. Some top-grade 1967 Lincoln cents have sold for hundreds or even thousands of dollars at auction. The reason isn't rarity in terms of mintage. It's rarity in terms of preservation. One famous example graded at an exceptionally high level sold for several $1,000s. Collectors competed aggressively because so few examples survive in such remarkable condition. But condition isn't the only factor that can increase value. Error coins are another major reason collectors examine 1967 pennies closely. During the minting process, mistakes occasionally occur. These errors can transform an ordinary coin into a highly sought-after collectible. One type of error involves a double die. This happens when the design is impressed onto the die incorrectly, creating visible doubling on letters, numbers, or design elements. Genuine double die coins can be worth substantial premiums depending on the strength of the doubling. Another error involves off-center strikes. In these cases, the coin blank is not properly aligned during striking. Part of the design may be missing, creating a dramatic appearance that collectors love. There are also clipped planchets, where part of the coin is missing because of a manufacturing mistake before striking. Some 1967 pennies have been discovered with these unusual shapes. Occasionally, coins are struck on incorrect planchets intended for other denominations. Such errors are rare and can attract significant attention whenever they appear. Because of these possibilities, many collectors continue searching through rolls and collections of old pennies. Now let's talk about value. A typical circulated 1967 Lincoln penny is usually worth only a small amount above face value. Many examples trade for a few cents. Coins in uncirculated condition often sell for higher amounts. Depending on quality, values can range from a few dollars to much more. Premium examples with outstanding eye appeal may reach hundreds of dollars. The biggest prices are generally reserved for top-graded coins or major error varieties. In those cases, values can climb into the thousands. Of course, coin values change over time based on collector demand and market conditions. That's why professional grading and authentication become important when dealing with potentially valuable examples. So how can you identify a genuine 1967 Lincoln penny and avoid being fooled? First, check the date carefully. It should clearly read 1967. Next, remember that no mint mark is normal. You should not expect to see a small letter beneath the date. Examine the overall appearance. Authentic examples should display the standard Lincoln portrait on the front and the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse. Weight can also help. A genuine coin should weigh close to 3.11 grams. Significant differences may indicate damage, alteration, or another issue. Magnification is useful when searching for errors. Look closely at letters, numbers, and design elements for unusual doubling or striking abnormalities. Be cautious of altered coins. Some individuals modify common coins in an attempt to create fake rarities. If you discover a coin that appears unusual or potentially valuable, professional authentication is often the safest route. Here's a surprising fact many people don't know. The U.S. Mint produced more than 3 billion Lincoln pennies in 1967. That's an enormous number. Yet despite that huge mintage, truly superb examples remain surprisingly difficult to locate today because most entered circulation immediately and accumulated wear. Another interesting detail is that the 1967 penny was part of a period when special mint sets replaced traditional proof sets for collectors. These special sets featured higher quality coins but were produced differently than earlier proof issues. Because of this unique historical period, 1967 coins occupy a special place in many collections. There's also something deeply appealing about Lincoln cents in general. For generations, Americans have searched through jars of spare change looking for interesting dates and unusual varieties. Few coins create that sense of treasure hunting quite like the humble penny. Many collectors remember finding their first wheat cent or their first old Lincoln penny. That experience often sparks a lifelong hobby. The 1967 Lincoln penny fits perfectly into that tradition. It's affordable, widely available, and connected to an important chapter in American history. At the same time, it offers the possibility of discovering a valuable high-grade example or an exciting mint error. That combination keeps collectors interested decade after decade. Perhaps the greatest lesson of the 1967 Lincoln penny is that value isn't always obvious. What appears ordinary on the surface can hide a remarkable story underneath. This small copper coin witnessed a period when the United States government took extraordinary steps to solve a national coin shortage. It circulated during a transformative era in American history, and today, it continues to capture the imagination of collectors searching for hidden treasures in the most unexpected places. So the next time you come across a jar of old pennies, don't ignore the 1967 cents. Take a closer look. Examine the details. Check the condition. Search for unusual features. You never know when an ordinary-looking penny might reveal an extraordinary story. And somewhere out there, sitting unnoticed in an old collection, a forgotten coin box, or the bottom of a dusty drawer, there may still be a remarkable 1967 Lincoln penny waiting to be discovered by the person curious enough to look. What if I told you that a penny worth just 1 cent could actually be worth thousands of dollars today? And what if that penny was hiding in an old jar, a forgotten piggy bank, or even loose change sitting in someone's drawer? Believe it or not, one particular Lincoln penny from 1969 has become one of the most talked about coins among collectors, and the Denver Mint version has a fascinating story that continues to attract attention decades later. The 1969 D. Lincoln penny may look ordinary at first glance. It's small, brown, and easy to overlook. Millions of Americans handled these coins every day without giving them a second thought. But today, collectors search through rolls of pennies hoping to find one with special characteristics that could make it far more valuable than its face value. To understand why this coin is so interesting, we have to travel back to 1969. America was experiencing a remarkable period in history. The nation was preparing for one of mankind's greatest achievements, the Apollo 11 moon landing. Television sets across the country were bringing world events directly into people's homes. Music, culture, and technology were changing rapidly. During all of this excitement, the United States Mint was busy producing billions of coins to keep up with the needs of a growing economy. Among those coins was the 1969 Lincoln penny struck at the Denver Mint. The small letter D beneath the date tells us exactly where it was made. The Denver Mint was one of the busiest minting facilities in the country, producing enormous quantities of coins every year. The mintage of the 1969 D. Lincoln penny reached approximately 969 million coins. That's an incredible number. Imagine stacking 969 million pennies. The pile would be enormous. With so many produced, you might think these coins would never become collectible. Yet coin collecting has a way of turning ordinary objects into treasures. The Lincoln cent itself already had a rich history by 1969. First introduced in 1909 to celebrate the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth, it became the first regular circulating U.S. coin to feature a real historical person. Before Lincoln appeared on American coins, most designs featured symbolic figures rather than actual individuals. The front of the coin displays the familiar portrait of Abraham Lincoln created by sculptor Victor David Brenner. Lincoln faces right with a calm, dignified expression. Above his head appears the motto "In God We Trust." The word liberty is positioned to the left, while the date and mint mark appear on the right. Turn the coin over, and you'll see the classic wheat-free design known as the Lincoln Memorial Reverse. Introduced in 1959, this design replaced the famous wheat ears that had appeared on Lincoln cents for 50 years. The Lincoln Memorial stands proudly in the center, representing one of America's most recognizable monuments. One fascinating detail many people never notice is that Abraham Lincoln can actually be seen inside the memorial on the reverse. It is tiny, but if you look closely with magnification, the statue of Lincoln is visible. This made the Lincoln Memorial Cent one of the first U.S. coins to feature the same person on both sides. The 1969 D penny was struck using a composition of 95% copper and 5% zinc and tin. These copper-rich cents have a distinctive appearance and feel that many collectors love. Unlike modern pennies, which contain mostly zinc, these older copper cents have a solid, substantial quality. Now here's where things become interesting. Most 1969 D pennies are common and worth only a small premium over face value. However, condition changes everything. When collectors evaluate a coin, they pay close attention to preservation. A penny that's circulated through stores, cash registers, and vending machines for decades will naturally show wear. The design becomes softer, details fade, and scratches accumulate. But occasionally, a coin survives in remarkable condition. Perhaps someone saved it shortly after it was minted. Maybe it sat untouched in a collection for years. These high-grade examples are much scarcer than people realize. Collectors compete aggressively for coins that appear nearly perfect. The difference between an average coin and an exceptional one can mean the difference between a few cents and hundreds or even thousands of dollars. One of the biggest reasons collectors pay attention to the 1969 penny series is because of famous error coins associated with that year. The most legendary is the 1969 double die cent produced in Philadelphia without a mint mark. That coin is among the most famous Lincoln cent errors ever discovered. Because of its fame, many people automatically inspect every 1969 penny they find. During that process, some collectors also discover high-quality Denver Mint examples that command impressive premiums. Error coins from the Denver Mint can also generate excitement. Collectors search for off-center strikes, die cracks, die chips, repunched mint marks, and other unusual minting mistakes. While these are not as famous as the legendary double die variety, they can still be highly collectible. Auction results demonstrate how condition affects value. A heavily circulated 1969 D penny might sell for only a few cents or perhaps $1 if someone needs it for a collection folder. But certified, uncirculated examples can bring significantly more. Coins graded in higher mint state levels often sell for dozens of dollars, while superb gem examples have reached hundreds of dollars. In exceptional cases, top population specimens certified by major grading services have achieved auction prices exceeding $1,000 because so few survive in such extraordinary condition. This surprises many people. After all, how can a coin with nearly 1 billion pieces minted become valuable? The answer lies in survival rates. Although hundreds of millions were produced, very few remain in pristine condition today. Most entered circulation immediately and spent years changing hands. The number of truly flawless examples is dramatically smaller than the original mintage suggests. If you're searching for a valuable 1969 D penny, there are several things you should examine carefully. First, check the date. Make sure it clearly reads 1969. Next, look beneath the date for the D mint mark. The mint mark should appear natural and properly aligned. Be cautious because altered coins exist. Some individuals attempt to add mint marks to increase value or create misleading varieties. A magnifying glass can be extremely helpful. Examine the surfaces for unusual features, minting errors, or exceptional preservation. Pay close attention to the coin's color as well. Lincoln cents are often categorized as brown, red-brown, or red. Red examples retain much of their original mint luster and color. These are typically the most desirable because copper naturally darkens over time. Finding a coin that remains bright and red after decades is increasingly difficult. Counterfeit detection is another important topic. Whenever a coin becomes valuable, counterfeiters become interested. Collectors should be cautious of altered dates, added mint marks, or fake error coins. One simple step is to compare a suspected valuable coin with authenticated examples from reputable grading services. Professional certification companies carefully inspect coins for authenticity and assign grades that help establish market value. Another clue is weight. Genuine 1969 pennies should weigh approximately 3.11 grams because of their copper composition. Significant deviations could indicate a problem. Now let's talk about some fun facts. Did you know that many people have unknowingly spent collectible coins because they never examined their change? Stories regularly emerge about valuable coins discovered in coffee cans, estate sales, inherited collections, and even penny rolls purchased from banks. One collector reportedly spent years searching through thousands of Lincoln cents before finding a key variety that paid for the entire hobby many times over. Another interesting fact is that Lincoln cents are among the most collected coins in the United States. Their affordability makes them accessible to beginners, while rare varieties keep advanced collectors engaged for decades. The 1969 penny occupies a unique place in that world. It comes from a memorable era in American history and belongs to one of the most beloved coin series ever produced. Collectors appreciate the connection to the late 1960s, a period filled with cultural change, technological advancement, and historic achievements. Every coin serves as a tiny piece of that history. There's also the thrill of possibility. Because these pennies were produced in such large numbers, examples can still occasionally be found in circulation, old collections, or forgotten storage containers. That means the next valuable specimen might still be waiting to be discovered. For many collectors, the appeal isn't just about money. Holding a 1969 penny creates a direct connection to the past. This coin may have traveled across multiple states, passed through countless hands, and witnessed decades of American history. It survived economic changes, political events, and generations of everyday transactions. That journey transforms a simple penny into something far more meaningful. And perhaps that's the real reason collectors continue searching for coins like the 1969 Lincoln cent. It's not merely about copper and metal. It's about discovery. It's about history. It's about the excitement of finding something special where nobody else thought to look. The next time you receive a handful of change, don't rush to spend it. Take a closer look. Examine the dates. Check the mint marks. Look for unusual details. Because hidden among ordinary coins could be a remarkable survivor from 1969, a penny that has quietly waited more than half a century for someone to recognize its significance. And who knows? The next great coin discovery might already be sitting in your pocket, waiting for you to notice it. The penny sitting in your pocket right now could be worth far more than 1 cent. In fact, some collectors have paid hundreds, even thousands of dollars for certain modern Lincoln pennies that most people overlook every single day. And among them is a coin that surprises many collectors because it is so recent. The 2016 Lincoln penny with no mint mark. At first glance, it looks ordinary. But hidden within some of these coins are details, varieties, and conditions that can turn a simple 1 cent piece into a collector's treasure. So before you spend your next penny, you may want to take a closer look. The 2016 no mint mark Lincoln penny is one of the most common coins produced in the United States during the modern era. Millions upon millions were struck for circulation, and they quickly spread across the country through banks, cash registers, and everyday transactions. Most people never gave them a second thought. After all, it was just another penny. But coin collecting has a funny way of transforming ordinary objects into fascinating pieces of history. What seems common today can become highly desirable tomorrow, especially when collectors begin searching for exceptional examples, unusual errors, and scarce varieties. To understand why the 2016 no mint mark Lincoln penny attracts attention, we first need to look at its place in American coinage history. The Lincoln cent first appeared in 1909 to honor the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth. It was the first regular circulating U.S. coin to feature a real person rather than a symbolic figure. That decision changed American coinage forever. More than a century later, Lincoln remains on the nation's penny. The 2016 issue continued that tradition. These pennies were produced during a period when the United States Mint was still making billions of cents each year despite ongoing debates about whether the penny should remain in circulation. The no-mint mark version was struck at the Philadelphia Mint. For many years, Philadelphia pennies traditionally carried no mint mark, making them instantly recognizable to experienced collectors. So when you see a 2016 penny without a mint mark beneath the date, it usually means it came from Philadelphia. The year 2016 was also significant because it represented another chapter in the long-running Lincoln Cent series, one of the most collected coin series in American history. Generations of Americans have searched through rolls of pennies looking for valuable dates, rare varieties, and hidden treasures. Now let's look at the coin itself. The obverse, or front side, features the familiar portrait of Abraham Lincoln. His profile faces right, just as it has for decades. Above his head appears the national motto, "In God We Trust." To the left is Liberty, and to the right sits the date, 2016. On the reverse is the Union Shield design, introduced in 2010. The shield contains 13 vertical stripes representing the original 13 colonies. Across the top stretches a horizontal bar symbolizing the unity that held the nation together. Above the shield appears E Pluribus Unum, while 1 cent and United States of America complete the design. Although millions of Americans carry these coins every day, many have never stopped to appreciate the symbolism hidden within the artwork. The coin itself is composed primarily of zinc with a thin copper plating. It weighs approximately 2.5 grams and has a diameter of 19.05 millimeters. Unlike older wheat pennies or early Lincoln cents, modern pennies contain very little copper, a change made decades ago to reduce production costs. At this point, you might be wondering how a coin produced by the billions could possibly have any value beyond 1 cent. The answer lies in condition, rarity within grades, and mint errors. Most 2016 no-mint mark pennies are worth exactly 1 cent. If you pull a worn example from circulation, collectors generally won't pay much for it. But things become very different when the coin is preserved in exceptional condition. Collectors seek coins that look as close as possible to the day they left the mint. These pristine examples often display strong luster, sharp details, and minimal contact marks. Because billions of pennies are tossed into jars, drawers, and pockets, finding one in perfect condition becomes surprisingly difficult. Imagine 2 identical pennies struck on the same day. One spends years bouncing around cash registers and vending machines. The other is carefully stored immediately after leaving the mint. Decades later, the preserved coin may be worth hundreds of times more than its circulated twin. This is where professional grading enters the picture. Coins graded at the highest mint state levels can command impressive premiums. A top-quality 2016 no-mint mark Lincoln penny with exceptional preservation can sell for far more than face value because collectors compete for the finest known examples. Then there are mint errors. Mint errors occur when something goes wrong during the manufacturing process. These mistakes can create unusual and highly collectible coins. On 2016 pennies, collectors search for off-center strikes, doubled features, die cracks, clipped planchets, and other unusual characteristics. An off-center strike occurs when the blank coin is not properly aligned during striking. Part of the design may be missing, creating a dramatic appearance that immediately catches the eye. A double die variety can show noticeable doubling in letters, numbers, or design elements. While not every form of doubling is valuable, genuine double dies often attract serious collector interest. Die cracks appear as raised lines on the surface of the coin. Some are minor, while others become large enough to create dramatic visual effects. Clipped planchets occur when part of the metal blank is missing before striking, resulting in a coin with an unusual shape. These mint mistakes are accidental, and because they are uncommon, collectors often pay premiums for them. One of the most exciting aspects of coin collecting is that valuable discoveries can still be found in circulation. People continue searching bankrolls and coin jars hoping to uncover an overlooked error worth much more than face value. Now let's talk about actual collector values. A typical circulated 2016 no-mint mark penny generally remains worth only a few cents. However, Uncirculated examples can bring higher prices depending on quality. Coins graded in lower mint state levels may sell for a few dollars. Better examples can reach tens of dollars. The finest certified specimens have achieved prices that surprise many newcomers. Some professionally graded examples in elite condition have sold for hundreds of dollars. Exceptional registry quality coins, where collectors compete for the very best-known specimens, have reached values approaching or exceeding the numbers that make headlines among modern coin enthusiasts. When error coins enter the picture, values can climb even higher. A dramatic and visually appealing mint error may attract significant bidding interest, especially if it is authenticated by a respected grading service. Of course, not every unusual-looking penny is valuable. Damage that occurs after the coin leaves the mint usually does not add collector value. This is why authentication and careful examination are important. So how can you tell if you have a genuine 2016 no-mint mark Lincoln penny worth investigating? Start with the date. Make sure it clearly reads 2016. Next, look beneath the date. A Philadelphia issue will show no mint mark. If you see a D, the coin was struck in Denver. No mint mark means Philadelphia. Check the coin's overall condition. Does it still have bright, original luster? Are the details sharp and well preserved? High-quality surfaces are important. Use a magnifying glass to inspect the lettering, date, and design details. Look for signs of doubling, unusual shapes, missing elements, or other potential mint errors. Weigh the coin if possible. A significant difference from the expected weight could indicate an unusual minting mistake. However, professional evaluation may be needed to determine whether a coin is truly special. Be cautious of altered coins. Some individuals attempt to create fake errors by damaging coins after they leave the mint. Genuine mint errors typically display characteristics that experts can identify. If you believe you have discovered an unusual example, consider consulting a reputable coin dealer or submitting the coin to a professional grading service. One fascinating fact about modern pennies is that many people assume older automatically means more valuable. In reality, condition often matters more than age. A perfectly preserved modern coin can sometimes be worth more than a heavily worn coin that is decades older. Another surprising detail is that billions of pennies are produced, yet collectors still compete fiercely for the finest examples. The difference between an average coin and a top-grade specimen can be enormous. The 2016 Lincoln penny also represents a continuing chapter in one of the longest-running coin series in American history. Few American coins have remained in circulation for as many generations as the Lincoln cent. Think about that for a moment. The same basic coin design connects people living today with Americans who carried Lincoln cents decades ago. Every penny tells a small part of a much larger story. Collectors love the 2016 no-mint mark penny because it combines accessibility with opportunity. Almost anyone can search for one. You don't need a large budget. You don't need expensive equipment. You simply need curiosity and patience. There is always the possibility of finding a high-grade survivor, a striking mint error, or a variety that other people missed. That sense of discovery keeps collectors searching year after year. Many experienced numismatists began their journey with ordinary pocket change. A simple penny found in circulation sparked an interest that eventually grew into a lifelong hobby. The thrill of the hunt remains one of the most enjoyable aspects of coin collecting. And perhaps that is the real appeal of the 2016 no-mint mark Lincoln penny. It reminds us that treasure does not always come in the form of gold bars or ancient artifacts. Sometimes it arrives disguised as a humble coin worth only 1 cent. The next time you receive change from a store, don't rush to spend it. Take a moment to look closely at those pennies. Hidden among the ordinary pieces may be a coin with exceptional condition, an unusual error, or a story waiting to be discovered. After all, countless valuable coins have been found by ordinary people who simply decided to take a second look. And somewhere, right now, a 2016 no-mint mark Lincoln penny could be sitting unnoticed in a jar, a drawer, a cash register, or even in your pocket, waiting for someone to recognize its true potential. The question is, will that someone be you?